Every great World War II story you've heard, Dunkirk, Midway, D-Day, the U-boats, exists because of one thing most people forget to picture: the navies that actually made those moments possible. In this video, we're going to race around the globe and break down the main World War II navies in plain language, so that by the end, you can look at any map of 1939 to 1945 and instantly see the fleets moving behind the headlines. We'll move fast, talk ships and strategy, and keep everything tightly focused on how each navy tried to win and how some of them were completely reshaped by the war. Let's start where the war at sea effectively begins, with the Royal Navy of Great Britain. In 1939, the Royal Navy walks into World War II as the heavyweight champion of the oceans, with over 300 combat ships in service, more than anyone else on the planet. This isn't just a big fleet, it's a global system of task forces spread from home waters around Britain, through the Mediterranean, all the way to the far corners of the empire. You've got the home fleet guarding the British Isles and the lifeline convoys in the North Atlantic, while another major force, the Mediterranean Fleet, fights from Malta and Egypt for control of the narrow sea between Europe and North Africa. On paper, a mix of battleships, aircraft carriers, cruisers, destroyers, and submarines makes Britain look untouchable at sea. But sheer size doesn't mean safety. The first big tension in the story is that this world's strongest navy is responsible for protecting both a home island that imports most of its food and fuel and an empire scattered across the globe. As soon as Germany unleashes its U-boats on merchant shipping, the Royal Navy isn't just dueling enemy warships, it's racing to plug hundreds of holes in a global shipping network that keeps Britain alive. British shipyards work literally around the clock, replacing losses and pushing out new escorts, while German submarines try to starve the country into submission. Now imagine Britain at sea in 1939 with a powerful friend at its side, the French Marine Nationale. At the outbreak of war, the French Navy is actually one of the largest navies in the world, and it's a key partner in European waters. Its modern Force de Raid Squadron, based at Brest, is built around fast battleships, cruisers, and destroyers designed to chase down German surface raiders in the Atlantic. French warships spread out across the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, the English Channel, West Africa, and the Indian Ocean, guarding French colonies and trade routes. Their fleet includes battleships, an aircraft carrier, cruisers, destroyers, and a sizable submarine force when war begins in September 1939. On paper, this combination of Royal Navy plus Marine Nationale should lock down Europe's seas, but the war throws a brutal twist. In June 1940, France collapses on land under the German Blitz, and what was one of the biggest Allied fleets suddenly becomes a huge question mark. Will these ships fall into German hands? Will they join the Free French and keep fighting? Britain can't risk the Axis suddenly acquiring a powerful French battle fleet, so in July 1940, the Royal Navy launches a deeply controversial attack on French ships at Mers el-Kebir in Algeria, damaging or destroying several major vessels to keep them out of German control. Overnight, a navy that began the war as a crucial ally is shattered politically and militarily, and Britain has to stretch its own forces to cover the gap left in the Mediterranean and Atlantic. Now switch perspectives. If Britain and France are trying to keep sea lanes open, Germany's Kriegsmarine is trying to choke them off. When World War II begins, the German Navy is much smaller, with a handful of battleships and cruisers, and a modest surface fleet compared to the Royal Navy. German naval planners know they cannot go toe-to-toe with the British in big surface battles. The numbers simply don't work. So instead of building a copy of the British fleet, they lean into asymmetric warfare, commerce raiding and submarine attacks on merchant shipping. The early war story of the Kriegsmarine is a mix of daring surface operations and an increasingly deadly U-boat campaign. The new battleship Bismarck, joining the fleet in 1940, is a monster. Heavily armed and armored, one of the most powerful warships in Europe. Her first and only major combat sortie in May 1941 sees her sink Hood, but then get hunted down by the entire Royal Navy hunting pack. The real long-term weapon, though, is underwater. Germany commits to mass-producing U-boats, eventually commissioning hundreds of submarines of various types. By 1942, this gamble seems to be working. German submarines are sinking Allied merchant ships at a terrifying rate, threatening to cut Britain off from vital food, fuel, and war supplies. But this is where technology and coordination begin to flip the script. As Allied radar, sonar, escort carriers, and dedicated anti-submarine ships and aircraft roll out, the U-boat packs suddenly find themselves hunted instead of hunting. The battleship Scharnhorst is sunk in 1943, and the last German battleship Tirpitz is finished off by British aircraft in 1944. By spring 1945, the surface fleet is essentially gone, and the remaining submarines are surrendering, showing just how completely the Kriegsmarine has been ground down. Head south to the Mediterranean, and you find another Axis navy whose war is defined by geography and technology, Italy's Regia Marina. Italy enters the war in June 1940 with a large fleet, most of it concentrated in the Mediterranean Sea, directly facing the British routes to Malta, Egypt, and the Middle East. The Italian fleet looks impressive on paper, with battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and more than 100 submarines. Its mission is clear: challenge British control of the Mediterranean, attack convoys supplying Malta and North Africa, and protect Italian supply lines to their own forces in Libya. But there's a huge catch. Italy has no operational aircraft carriers. In an era when naval aviation is becoming the main strike force at sea, the Regia Marina is forced to rely on land-based aircraft for reconnaissance and air cover, which often arrive too late or can't reach British fleets at the right moment. Italian battleships, including modern designs like the Littorio class, have serious firepower, but fighting under the shadow of British radar, carrier aviation, and superior code breaking puts them at a constant disadvantage. Across the Mediterranean, they fight numerous engagements, from night battles to convoy attacks, yet struggle to translate tactical bravery into strategic control of the sea. British strengths in radar and intelligence, especially code-breaking efforts that read Axis naval communications, let them position fleets and convoys in ways that consistently blunt Italian efforts. By 1943, Italy has capitulated, and the Regia Marina is no longer a major threat in the Mediterranean theater, with many ships either interned, joining the Allies, or effectively sidelined. A navy that began with serious potential never fully unlocks it because it steps into a war where the rules of naval power are changing faster than its doctrine and technology. While the Mediterranean becomes a tight, deadly chessboard, the Soviet Navy is fighting a very different kind of war in the North, South, and Far East. When the USSR is thrust fully into the conflict, its navy is split into several completely separate fleets: the Baltic Fleet, Black Sea Fleet, Northern Fleet, and Pacific Fleet. On paper, this includes a small number of battleships, no carriers, a modest cruiser and destroyer force, and a very large submarine arm. The problem is geography. These fleets are separated by great distances and hostile waters, making it nearly impossible to move ships from one theater to another or to coordinate a single unified naval strategy. Unlike the carrier duels of the Pacific or the convoy battles of the Atlantic, the Soviet naval war is tightly tied to the land campaign. The main mission isn't huge fleet actions, but supporting ground troops along the coast, protecting key convoys, and disrupting German communications. In the north, Soviet warships are crucial in helping guard Allied convoys bringing supplies from Britain to ports like Murmansk and Arkhangelsk, all under constant threat from German submarines and aircraft. In the Baltic, the fleet finds itself largely bottled up around Leningrad by German minefields and coastal artillery, turning its role into one of coastal defense and fire support during the long and brutal siege. The Black Sea Fleet carries out amphibious landings, coastal bombardments, and evacuations along the Soviet shoreline, fighting against smaller German and Romanian naval units. Across all these theaters, the Soviet Navy takes real losses, but its presence helps keep vital coastal sectors supplied and contributes to the survival of Soviet positions that later become launching points for counteroffensives. It's not the glamorous blue water war of enormous carrier task forces, but it is a war where ships and submarines directly influence the fate of cities and armies on land. Now we jump across the world to the Navy that begins the Pacific War with a thunderclap, the Imperial Japanese Navy. On December 7, 1941, Japan has a powerful modern fleet and decides to open its war against the United States with a single, shocking move: the carrier-borne air attack on Pearl Harbor. The Japanese fleet at this moment is highly trained, technologically advanced, and built for fast, decisive naval battles. It fields a line of battleships, 6 operational aircraft carriers, numerous cruisers, over 100 destroyers, and dozens of submarines. Crucially, Japan starts the war with a numerical edge in carriers over the U.S. in the Pacific, giving it a powerful early advantage in this new era where carriers are the main capital ships. 3 days after Pearl Harbor, Japanese aircraft also sink the British battleship Prince of Wales and battlecruiser Repulse in the South China Sea, dramatically proving that aircraft can hunt and kill even the most modern capital ships without a single gun-to-gun engagement. In May 1942, the Battle of the Coral Sea becomes the first major carrier versus carrier clash in history, a naval battle where the opposing fleets never see each other directly and all the damage is done by aircraft. Japan sinks one of the 2 American carriers engaged but loses its own carrier and has another heavily damaged, failing to secure its objective of cutting the Allied route to New Guinea. 1 month later, at Midway in June 1942, the entire balance of power in the Pacific shifts in just a few days. Japan commits 4 aircraft carriers, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and hundreds of carrier aircraft to a bold plan to smash the remaining American carrier force. You'll know the fleets behind the headlines, who they were, what they sailed, and how they tried to win a war that turned oceans into the decisive battlefield of the 20th century. If you enjoyed this rapid tour through every major World War II Navy, make sure you subscribe, share this video with someone who loves war history, and comment which Navy you want a full deep dive on next: the U-boats, the carriers, or the battleships.